The era of predictable podiums is officially over. While Daniel Sanders and KTM snatched the crown back in 2025, the grid lining up for the 2026 Dakar Rally tells a completely different story. The days of betting blindly on an orange bike are gone. Instead, we are witnessing a full-blown mechanical arms race. The landscape has shifted, and this isn't just a test of rider grit anymore. New fuel efficiency regulations and navigation tech are converging with aggressive strategies from Asia and Europe. The question isn't just who is fastest, it's which factory has built a machine capable of surviving 8,000 kilometers of hell. We are looking at the most diverse grid in rally history. Let's start right at the top of the food chain. The battlefield, terrain, heat, and new rules. The 2026 route pushes deeper into the empty quarter than ever before. This implies two things: extreme heat and endless fesh-fesh. That fine powder sand is a mechanic's nightmare, hiding rocks that shatter sumps and clogging air filters in minutes. But the physical landscape is only part of the problem. The bikes are fighting a thermal war. The new mandate for 100% sustainable fuels changes the chemistry of the race. These synthetic fuels often burn hotter than traditional gasoline and lack natural lubricity. This puts immense thermal strain on pistons and valves. In previous years, horsepower was king. Now, cooling efficiency is the deciding factor. If a bike cannot shed heat while revving at the red line in 40-degree sand, the engine will expire long before the finish line. Alongside the heat, riders face the navigation revolution. The paper roadbook is gone for the elite class, replaced by mandatory digital towers. This sounds like a simple tech upgrade, but it fundamentally alters the bike's handling. These units are heavy and sit high on the handlebars, raising the center of gravity and making the steering feel sluggish. It places more load on the rider's arms and shoulders, increasing fatigue. It also stresses the electrical system, which now must power navigation and tracking without frying the loom. This creates distinct advantages depending on the terrain. On high-speed hardpack, a rigid aluminum frame, the kind Honda favors, is superior. It provides stability and precision at 160 kilometers per hour. But in the dunes, that stiffness punishes the rider. There, a flexible steel frame like KTM's or a low-mass design like Kove's works better, allowing the bike to flex with the terrain rather than fighting it. In the technical canyons, the advantage shifts to agile, enduro-based chassis like Sherco that are easier to manhandle. Finally, suspension setup is a brutal compromise. You need stiffness to hit a ditch at speed without bottoming out, but softness to save your wrists over 6,000 kilometers. Every manufacturer has chosen a philosophy, and the terrain will punish the wrong choice. The giants, Honda versus the Austrian Empire. Now let's look at the heavyweights trying to conquer this terrain. First up is Honda HRC, the team everyone calls the Red Wall. After losing the title back to KTM in 2025, they are desperate to reclaim the #1 plate. Their weapon, the CRF 450 Rally, represents a very specific engineering philosophy. Honda utilizes a rigid aluminum twin-tube frame derived directly from their motocross lineage. This chassis is incredibly stiff. When you hit a hidden rock at 160 kilometers per hour on hard-packed terrain, that rigidity keeps the bike tracking straight where other bikes might wobble. It offers unmatched precision at high speeds, which is why you often see Honda dominating the faster open stages. But there is a trade-off. That aluminum structure doesn't absorb energy. It transfers it directly to the rider. It is a physically demanding machine that requires athletes like Ricky Brabec and Tosha Sharena to muscle it around for 2 weeks. To counter this, rumors for 2026 suggest Honda is testing radical tech, possibly active aerodynamics or a mild hybrid assist system. The goal isn't just speed, it's providing instant torque in deep dunes to save the clutch. With Adrian Van Beveren, arguably the best sand specialist in the world, on the team, Honda has built a high-speed tank designed to break the opposition with sheer pace. Standing directly in their path is the Austrian Empire. Whether the stickers say KTM, Husqvarna, or GasGas, the underlying DNA is identical. The Austrian philosophy is the polar opposite of Japan's. Instead of rigid aluminum, they stick to a chromium molybdenum steel trellis frame. It looks like a spiderweb of tubes, and unlike the Honda, it is designed to flex. This flex acts like a secondary suspension system, absorbing the high-frequency chatter of the desert floor before it reaches the rider's hands. Over an 8-hour stage, the KTM platform is generally more comfortable and less fatiguing, allowing the rider to stay fresher for the final kilometers. However, the Austrians have been fighting a glass cannon reputation. In recent years, their push for horsepower to match Honda's top-end speed compromised reliability. We saw high-profile engine failures that cost them stages, usually involving the gearbox or top end letting go under stress. For 2026, the factory has reportedly refocused on durability over raw power, trusting their legendary WPX ACT Pro suspension to make up the time in the rough stuff. They have the reigning champion, Daniel Sanders, leading the charge. Backing him are the Benavides brothers, Kevin and Luciano, who are masters at nursing machinery through the worst conditions. Kevin on the orange KTM and Luciano on the white Husqvarna essentially gives the factory 2 shots at the title with the same hardware. The contrast is stark. Honda builds a rigid machine for absolute speed, but risks exhausting the rider. KTM builds a flexible dirt bike for rider comfort, but risks mechanical failure if pushed too hard. While these two giants trade blows at the front, the midfield has become a legitimate threat. The midfield assassins, Hero and Sherco. While Honda and the Austrian conglomerate are busy staring each other down, a second wave of manufacturers has quietly closed the performance gap. In previous years, the midfield was just there to fill the grid. You didn't expect them to actually win stages unless the top guys got lost or crashed. That narrative is dead. The midfield is now a legitimate threat, and the most aggressive player in this space is Hero Motorsports. Hero is fascinating because the bike, the Hero 450 Rally, is a unique hybrid of industrial might and specialized racing tech. It's essentially an Indian manufacturer operating with heavy German engineering influence. The result is a machine that functions like a missile. Unlike the nimble, twitchy feel of a converted motocross bike, the Hero 450 is built for incredible top-end stability. It is designed to sit at high RPMs on fast, open hardpack for hours without vibrating the rider to pieces. If the Honda is a tank and the KTM is a dirt bike, the Hero is a drag racer that can handle bumps. The catalyst for Hero's transformation from a top 10 hopeful to a podium contender is Ross Branch. They call him the Kalahari Ferrari for a reason. Branch rides with a loose, aggressive style that puts immense stress on the chassis. He doesn't nurse the bike, he wrings its neck. His arrival forced the development team to toughen the platform. If the bike can survive Ross Branch at full tilt, it can survive anything. For 2026, the biggest evolution on the Hero isn't the engine, it's the weight distribution. Early iterations of this bike felt top-heavy when the tanks were full, which made it a handful in the dunes. You had to fight the front end to keep it from tucking. But recent development has moved that fuel mass lower and more central. Now, when the bike hits the technical dunes of the empty quarter, it doesn't just plow through, it floats. They have turned a high-speed, stable platform into a competent dune surfer, and that makes them dangerous. On the other side of this midfield battle is the French factory, Sherco. Their approach is philosophically different from Hero. Hero chased top speed and stability, Sherco chased agility. You have to remember that Sherco is, at its heart, an enduro company. They build bikes for tight woods and technical rocks, and you can feel that DNA in the Sherco 450 Rally. The chassis is slimmer between the knees than almost anything else on the grid. It feels more like a beefed-up enduro bike than a dedicated rally raider. This design philosophy is a strategic gamble. Sherco knows they might lose 5 minutes on a 200-kilometer flat-out straightaway against a Honda, but they are betting that they will make that time back in the technical canyons and the soft, broken dunes where wrestling a heavy bike costs precious energy. A lighter-feeling bike means a less fatigued rider. And in the second week of the Dakar, when everyone is exhausted, a fresh rider is faster than a fast bike. The reliability of the Sherco platform was the big question mark for years, but they have silenced those critics. Riders like Lorenzo Santolino and Harith Noah have proven the machine is robust. Harith Noah's performance, particularly his Rally 2 victory, validated the engine. He proved that the French bike could handle the abuse of a 2-week marathon without the gearbox disintegrating. They aren't bringing the sheer budget of Honda or the volume of KTM, but Sherco is bringing a bike that works with the rider rather than against them. They are betting that while the giants beat each other up, the agile blue bike can sneak through the carnage and steal the podium. The establishment is worried about these teams, but the real disruption, the one that changes the economics of the sport, is coming from the privateer market. The disruptors: Kove, Fantic, Rieju, and Hoto. If the establishment is defined by Austrian steel and Japanese aluminum, the disruption is coming from a completely different direction: China. Kove has done in 3 years what other manufacturers couldn't do in 20. They haven't just entered the Dakar, they have democratized it. Before the Kove 450 Rally arrived on the scene, if you wanted a competitive rally bike, you had 2 choices. You could spend 30,000 euros on a KTM replica that you might not even be able to buy because they only make 80 units a year. Or you could build a Frankenstein bike in your garage. Kove changed that math entirely. Their 2026 Challenger is the result of a test-in-public philosophy that is terrifying to traditional manufacturers. Instead of hiding prototypes at private test tracks, Kove sells their development mules to the public. The bike features a 450 cubic centimeter single-cylinder DOHC engine that produces around 54 horsepower, housed in a steel perimeter frame that mimics the geometry of the class leaders. But the real story is the fuel capacity and weight distribution. With 30 liters of fuel carried low in 3 separate plastic tanks, the bike feels incredibly light when fully loaded, addressing the #1 complaint of privateer riders: fatigue. In previous years, Mason Klein took a Kove to the line, exposing the gap between finishing and racing. When pushed to factory speeds, mechanical issues surfaced, showing the engine struggled at 100% pace for extended periods. For 2026, Kove has reportedly overhauled the metallurgy of their transmission and top end. They aren't trying to make the bike faster. They are trying to make it bulletproof at the red line. They proved the chassis can handle the speed. Now they need the engine to survive the aggression of a top-tier pilot. While Kove attacks with volume and aggressive pricing, the Italian manufacturer Fantic is playing a different game. They are the calculated sniper in the field. The Fantic XF 450 Rally is essentially the spiritual successor to the Yamaha Rally program. When Yamaha pulled out of the bike category, they left a void that Fantic filled by utilizing the legendary Yamaha WR 450F engine and powertrain. This is a critical distinction for a privateer spending their own money. While Kove is building their own engines, Fantic is using a power plant that has 2 decades of reliability data behind it. The Fantic chassis is a bespoke Italian aluminum perimeter frame designed for rally stability, but the heart is Japanese. This makes the XEF 450 Rally the safest bet for a privateer who wants to finish. It uses the reverse cylinder head design famous in the Yamaha motocross world, centralizing mass and keeping the intake high and exhaust low. This is crucial in the fesh-fesh. Keeping the air intake high means the filter stays cleaner for longer compared to front-facing intakes. The suspension is KYB, offering a plush, progressive feel distinct from the ubiquitous WP components found on the Austrian bikes. Highlight rider Franco Caimi has built a strategy around this consistency over raw power. The field continues to expand with Rieju and Hoto. Rieju, the Spanish manufacturer with deep off-road roots, remains a vital option for privateers. By keeping the spirit of the pre-KTM gas platform alive, they offer a rugged, proven alternative for riders who want European handling without the Austrian price tag. Hoto is the wildcard entry, rumored to be bringing new tech or aggressive pricing to shake up the entry-level rally class. The rise of these disruptors has fundamentally changed the customer racing aspect of the Dakar. In 2026, we are seeing the largest field of competitive privateers in history because the barrier to entry has lowered. You no longer need a 6-figure budget to buy a machine capable of a top 20 finish. Conclusion: the verdict. So, with the grid set, who actually takes the trophy? The winning formula for 2026 won't just be the fastest bike. It will be the bike that manages heat best and the rider who manages fatigue best. We are back to a war of attrition where the bike must be as tough as the rider. Honda has the stability and speed, but at the cost of rider energy. KTM has the suspension and comfort, but questions remain about engine longevity. The gap is gone. It's no longer about budget, it's about smart engineering choices. So, I have to ask you, Which machine would you trust with your life in the empty quarter? The rigid Honda, the flexible KTM, or the reliable Fantic? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe for more rally content.